All right. So when we talk about the nutrition in the case of human beings, so the first thing is that, of course, we know that it is heterotrophic because we can't make our own food. Quite literally, we can make our own food in the kitchen, but again, the raw material comes from the plants. So ultimately, we can't make our own food. And the kind of, you can say, the mode of nutrition which is found in us humans is holozoic mode of nutrition. Now, what is holozoic mode of nutrition? See, this is the kind of nutrition wherein we take the food as whole and then we digest it in our body. That is holozoic mode of nutrition. Okay, basically the holozoic tells us that okay, the digestion process is happening inside the body. Now, in terms of the processes that are there in the holozoic mode of nutrition, we have the first one, that is ingestion, meaning the procurement of the food, the process wherein we take the food inside our mouth for eating, right? That is ingestion. Now, after we're done doing that, then we do the process of digestion, wherein the food that we have eaten now slowly starts to get broken down into simpler substances so that we can derive the nutrition from that. Then third comes the absorption. Now, absorption is when the food has been digested. Now, whatever nutrient components are there in the food, such as we have carbohydrates, we have proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, so many things are there, right? So all of those things, that is what the main, you can say, function of eating is there in our body. Why do we eat? We eat so that we can get that protein, we can get that carbohydrate, fibers, and all of the things. But what do we eat for? We eat for taste, isn't it? But the ultimate plan of our body is to get those nutrition, those important nutrients from the food. So after the food has been digested, what we do, we absorb it. Our body absorbs the, you can say, the necessary stuff that is there in our food. Now, after it has been absorbed, so now the digestive system is particularly there in one part of the body and it is not spread throughout the body. So after the absorption is done, that energy, that nutrition, it has to be transported to different parts of our body. And that takes place with the help of assimilation. Assimilation sort of like its distribution to different parts wherever energy is required. Now, lastly, when all of this is done, and during the digestion part, when the food is like the part of the food that did not get digested, or the part of food that is a waste, so that gets excreted, or not excreted, defecated out of our body. We throw it out of the body, and that happens through the process of egestion. So all in all, the whole entire nutrition in humans is through these 5 steps.
Ma'am,
Ingestion, right? Yes.
how long does this whole process take place though?
See, in like I think it takes from 6 to 7 hours for the proper digestion to take place. Now, that is not a fixed number because it varies from human to human. There are some people that have had a proper meal and they'll get hungrier faster. They'll get hungry very fast. Why? Because their metabolism is strong. So for some people, digestion takes place very quickly. And then for some people, digestion does not take place quickly. Like they'll have a little amount of food and they'll stay full for a longer period of time. So those people do not have a good metabolism. But those people that are very hungry and very quick, they are hungry. So that is a great metabolism. So it depends from person to person. Okay. Now, talking about the nutrition, we know that we have a digestive system present in our body. Now, our digestive system, it has 2 major components present in it. The first major component is the alimentary canal, meaning the whole entire pathway, which starts from the mouth, ends at the anus. That is the alimentary canal. So we have it in our body because that is like from the beginning up until the end where the food will pass and each of the processes will take place at every step of the way. So we have the alimentary canal in our body, and apart from that, the second component, which is very important, which is the presence of the digestive enzymes. Now, enzymes are extremely important for digestion process. Now, why? Because without enzymes, Nothing can be digested in our body. You can't digest carbohydrates, proteins, fat, nothing can be digested. So there are associated glands that we call as digestive glands. Among those, the, the three most important digestive glands, liver, pancreas, and salivary glands. Liver is the largest gland of our body. Out of all of the different kinds of glands that we have in our body, liver is the largest one. Okay. Then comes pancreas. Now, pancreas is the gland, or you can say the digestive gland in our body that secretes the most important enzymes for the digestion. And then comes the salivary glands. Now, salivary glands are those glands that are present in the mouth, and they are responsible for the production of saliva. Now, the production of saliva is also very important in our digestive system because saliva has salivary amylase in it. And with the help of salivary amylase, we can digest the carbohydrate part. Now, have you ever heard about pancreas anywhere else, students, other than in the digestive system? Hmm? Have you heard about it before? Where else have you heard about pancreas? Anyone? No one has heard about pancreas before?
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, we have heard.
In the
Oh,
other chapter,
yes, Zana?
did we learn about it in the other chapter?
You tell me. I'm asking you. Do you people have pancreas? All of you do? Is there any exception? A person who does not have pancreas? I hope not. So when I talk about pancreas like a digestive gland, what kind of gland is it?
Ma'am, it's a heterogland gland
Yes, that is true. Very good. It's a mixed gland, isn't it? Now, why is it a mixed gland?
because it secretes hormones as well as enzymes.
Okay, so the hormone secreting pancreas is what kind of pancreas? Like what kind of gland would you call it? Hmm?
Ma'am, I didn't understand your question.
You said that pancreas also secrete hormones, right?
Pancreatic hormone.
Pancreatic?
Hormone.
Yeah, it secretes hormone. Yes, you people are right. It secretes hormone. But my question is the part of the pancreas, or if the pancreas is like secreting hormones, so which kind of gland would I call it? This is my question. I won't call it digestive gland, right? If it is secreting hormones. So what will I call it? All of you have studied. We have done control and coordination, right, students? Huh, so you have studied.
Adrenal gland.
Huh?
No, no. Sorry.
Adrenal gland is a different gland.
No, endocrine.
Endocrine gland, correct? So whenever pancreas secretes hormones, so it will be considered as an endocrine gland. But here, since pancreas is not secreting hormone, rather it is secreting enzymes for digestion, right? So now we are going to call it as exocrine. Now, who can tell me the difference between exocrine and endocrine?
Endocrine glands are the ductless glands.
Correct.
Exocrines are with duct.
All. Okay, so now moving forward, we'll see how the process of digestion takes place. Okay, so the first thing that we do is we take the food and we put it in our mouth, right? Now, after we are done doing that, we start chewing it. Our mouth has teeth, our mouth has tongue present. So with the help of teeth and tongue, we chew our food and we reduce the size of it so that it is easier for us to swallow. Now, you people might have noticed that while you put your food in the mouth, your mouth starts getting wet, right? So when the mouth starts getting wet, it means that the saliva production starts happening in the mouth. And when that takes place, it means that through the saliva contains an enzyme which is known as salivary amylase. Okay, there is an enzyme called as salivary amylase. See, amylase as an enzyme, it has a function of digesting carbohydrates, meaning the glucose part of the food, right? We have carbohydrates in our diet. So when we put the food in our mouth, 30% of carbohydrate gets digested in the mouth itself by the activity of the salivary amylase. Now, after that is done, then we swallow the food, right? Now, the food from our mouth goes into the food pipe, which is called as the esophagus. And you might have it is a question to all of you, like when you swallow something, when you drink water, or when you swallow your food, do you feel that it is going down? Have you people felt it?
Yes.
Especially when we are very hungry, right? We feel the food going down. We're like, finally something is going into our body. So there is a reason for that happening. See, if you think about a pipe, right? If you think just about any kind of pipe, and if you put something at one end of the pipe, it will not go to the other end unless you actually push it down or do something of that sort. Same happens with the esophagus. If you just swallow, the food will be stuck here. So esophagus, it has a very special kind of movement present in it, which is called as peristalsis movement. It is a movement that consists of contraction and relaxation. So it first contracts, then it relaxes, contracts and relaxes, because of which the food goes down the esophagus. Now, after the food goes down the esophagus, ultimately it reaches the J-shaped structure that is called as the stomach in our body. Now see, the stomach is a J-shaped storage structure of our body. So you might have felt like when we eat something like a proper meal, so you don't feel that your food is digested at that instant only. Like when you have swallowed, it goes inside. Do you feel that, okay, I have done eating and the food is digested also? Does that happen? No, right? So for a while, our stomach stores the food in it. Okay, it doesn't, like, the process of digestion doesn't start immediately. For a while, for at least I think 2 to 3 hours, the food gets stored in the J-shaped structure called as the stomach. Now, after that, when the activity of the stomach digestion starts, so during that, the walls of the stomach, they start secreting three things: hydrochloric acid, pepsin, and mucus. Now, the hydrochloric acid that is present in the stomach, it physically breaks down the food, because hydrochloric acid is a very strong acid, isn't it? If even one drop of it falls on our skin, our whole entire skin will burn of that area. So it is a very, very strong concentrated acid. And since it is present in our stomach, so whatever food particle that we eat, it will start breaking it down, right? And it creates an acidic medium because it is highly, highly acidic in nature. Then the second type of secretion of the wall of the stomach is the pepsin. See, the enzyme pepsin is responsible for digesting the protein component of the food. It digests the protein part of the food. Now, we know that such a highly concentrated acid is present in our stomach, right? The pH of hydrochloric acid can be as low as 3. Imagine how acidic it would be. Any acid can corrode metals also. So our body is made up of muscles. So why does it not affect us? So that is because of the mucus. Like where the hydrochloric acid, the pepsin is present, there is a thick layer of mucus that is present towards the inner wall of the stomach, and that is to protect the stomach from the action of hydrochloric acid. Now you might have felt this, that if you have been hungry for a long while or during fasting period, right? So we feel like our stomach starts paining, or there is like this kind of motion in the stomach, isn't it? It's like churns, right? All of you might have felt this while we are fasting. So our stomach goes like this. Why? Because since we are on fast, so we don't even have water in our body, we don't even have food. So the hydrochloric acid is there. Where would it go? So it starts acting upon on the walls of our stomach. So the hydrochloric acid, during the absence of food and water, starts acting on the walls of the stomach. This is why our stomach aches while we fast. Okay. Now, so now the protein component of the food has been digested. Now what will happen? The digested part of the food will now be released into the small intestine. And remember, whenever the food goes from one organ to another organ, it just doesn't directly goes. There is like a proper regulation for it. And each of them, like the junction where one organ ends and the other organ starts, is provided by a sphincter muscle, that only if this muscle will open, then only the food will go into the next body part. That is the purpose of this muscle. Now, from the stomach, the food gets released into the small intestine. Now, this small intestine, the name is small, but it is the largest part of our alimentary canal, the largest part. So, the largest and the longest part of the alimentary canal is the small intestine. Now remember that the length of the small intestine, it varies from organism to organism. For example, if you are talking about herbivores, now we know that herbivores, they eat the grasses, the leaves and all of that. Now plants have cellulose present in them. So to digest the cellulose component, it takes a longer period of time to digest cellulose. So herbivores, they need a much longer small intestine as compared to the carnivores. Why? Because herbivores' diet have a lot of concentration of cellulose in it. Then comes the carnivores. Since carnivores, they eat meat and very less amount of grasses or cellulosic things, so they need a smaller small intestine as compared to the herbivores. Now, if us humans, if we tend to eat grasses, our stomach would pain. Why? Because cellulose will not get digested, because we don't even have those enzymes to digest cellulose. Okay. Now, this small intestine that we are talking about, it is the site of complete digestion of food, meaning whatever component of food is there, no matter what, all of it would get digested in the small intestine. Every single thing, whether it is the left carbohydrates, the proteins, or the fat molecules, every single thing will finally get digested in the small intestine. Any doubts up until now? Okay. Now you people can note down till here. Then we'll move forward and talk about how it happens or how the process of digestion happens. Also, there is a very famous question that gets asked from this, is that from where does the digestion begin? What would your answer be, students?
From mouth.
Mouth.
From the mouth, right? Why? Because 30% of the carbohydrates was being digested there. Okay,
Saliva.
now you people can note down. You can switch off your videos and take down the notes.
Done.
Everyone's done? Students, all of you are done? Yes or no? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Done.
Okay. Done, students?
Yes.
All right. Okay, now everyone come back on. Let us continue. Now see, we saw that the small intestine is the site of complete digestion of food, meaning every single component of the food gets digested there. Now, the greatest thing is that this particular small intestine, it receives like the ducts of many different digestive glands so as to get the enzymes for digestion. So it receives the secretions from liver and it receives the secretion from pancreas, both of which are the major digestive glands. Now, the food coming from the stomach is acidic because it was present in the hydrochloric acid. So then what happens is that the pancreatic enzymes, they act on the food so that it can be made alkaline in nature, basic, right? Initially, the food was acidic. So now in the small intestine, it has to be made basic, meaning like the pH should be increased. Now the liver secretes bile juice. And remember one thing, students, that the bile juice does not have any enzymatic activity. The bile juice, what it does is that it emulsifies the fat. Emulsification of fat means the bigger fat molecules gets broken down into smaller pieces. That's it. No digestion takes place by bile juice. Always remember that. The liver, it secretes the bile juice, and the only thing that it does is that it breaks down the larger fat molecules into smaller ones. Now, the pancreatic juice from the pancreas, they contain the enzymes like trypsin for the digestion of proteins and the enzyme lipase for the digestion of the fats that has been emulsified. So it has two very important enzymes, trypsin for the protein and lipase for the digestion of the fat. Which fat? The fat that was broken down by the bile juice. Apart from that, the wall of the small intestine, just like the wall of the stomach, also secrete enzymes that are known as intestinal juices. And ultimately, it converts the protein component into amino acid. Meaning, see, what happens is that protein is made up of amino acids. So when we break down proteins, we'll get amino acids yet again, right? So the proteins, they get broken down into amino acid. The complex carbohydrates, that they get broken down into simple carbohydrates like sugar, and the fats, they get broken down into fatty acid plus glycerol. That is what happens. Now we know that the small intestine is the site of complete digestion. Now, another very unique thing about the small intestine is that it contains tiny projections that are called as villi. Okay, they're like finger-like structures that are present towards the inner side of the small intestine. And their function is to increase the surface area so that more and more area can be provided for more and more, or you can say better digestion. Also for absorption, because the food, after it gets digested in the small intestine, the process of absorption starts there only. Now these villi, these are the finger-like structures, they are richly supplied with blood vessels. And the very reason why it is supplied with blood vessels, so that the food, the digested food, can be absorbed into the blood. Clear? Now, the reason why we absorb the digested food is to get energy, to build new tissues, and to repair the old tissues, right? For all of the bodily needs, we do require the energy. Now, after the food has been digested in the small intestine and absorbed in the small intestine, now the undigested food moves into the large intestine. Now, no digestion takes place in large intestine. None of the, you can say, digestive activity takes place in the large intestine. Rather, the water component of the food, the minerals of the food, the vitamins, they get absorbed in the small intestine. Clear? And lastly, the food that has not been like digested properly, the undigested waste particle, it gets out of the body through the process called as egestion, and it takes place by anus. And same thing, this is also regulated by sphincters. So the opening of anus is also regulated by a sphincter called as anal sphincter. So all in all, we have completed the digestion in the case of humans. Now tell me, students, if you have any doubts, anything that you did not understand. So yeah, so now you people can note it down.
Done.